Following the Second World War, the Soviet Union occupied Hungary, gradually replacing its elected government with the Communist Party, leading to economic struggles and public discontent. The Soviet Union had established military control through a mutual assistance treaty, after an initial phase of multi-party democracy where the Communist Party was only a small portion, and they used salami tactics to erode the elected government's authority. Communist Interior Minister László Rajk established the AVH Security Police, which suppressed political opposition through intimidation and torture, ultimately ending the multi-party democracy. Hungary then became a communist state under Mátyás Rákosi's authoritarian rule, leading to purges of dissidents, show trials, and the politicization of the educational system to promote communist ideology and replace the educated class. Rákosi's government nationalized religious schools, replacing their leaders, and arrested and imprisoned church leaders including Joseph Cardinal Mindszenty, making it one of the most repressive regimes in Europe. By 1955, writers and journalists began to openly criticize the situation. In 1956, university students revived the banned anti-communist Mafesh student union and staged a demonstration that triggered the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. Hungary's post-war economy suffered greatly due to war reparations, limited trade with the West because of Comecon that was an economic organization under of the Eastern Bloc, and hyperinflation, leading to decreased incomes and manufacturing output. The death of Joseph Stalin in 1953 led to a period of liberalization, and Imre Nagy replaced Mátyás Rákosi as prime minister. Although Rákosi undermined most of Nagy's reforms and regained control until Nikita Khrushchev's denouncement of Stalin, leading to his final removal and replacement with Erno Gero in July 1956. The creation of the Warsaw Pact in 1955 further cemented Hungary's ties to the Soviet Union despite principles of respecting sovereignty, while Austria's declaration of neutrality raised hopes in Hungary for a similar status, even though this increased the strategic importance of Hungary to the Warsaw Pact. Political manipulation of wage controls and pricing systems, as well as the increase in foreign debt, created popular discontent within Hungary. Furthermore, a significant reduction in income and output from factories caused further economic struggles. In June 1956, a workers' uprising in Poland was suppressed, but in October, Poland appointed a reformist communist, Władysław Gomułka, who successfully negotiated concessions with the Soviet Union, encouraging similar hopes in Hungary. Rákosi's resignation led to more active criticism from students, writers, and journalists, who organized intellectual forums called pedophile circles. László Rajk's reburial and Imre Nagy's rehabilitation strengthened opposition to the existing communist structure. On October 16, university students in Szeged re-established the banned Mafesh student union, inspiring other universities, and on October 22, students compiled a list of policy demands for the nation. Students then organized a solidarity demonstration for Poland, planning to lay a wreath at a statue on October 23. On the afternoon of this day, approximately 20,000 protesters gathered, with the crowd chanting the censored national song and cutting out the communist coat of arms from the Hungarian flag. The crowd then moved across the Danube to the Parliament building, where it swelled to over 200,000 people, maintaining a peaceful yet spirited protest. At 8 p.m. on October 23, Erno Gero's broadcast condemning the protests angered demonstrators, prompting them to topple Stalin's statue by 9:30 p.m. Simultaneously, a large crowd at Radio Budapest clashed with the AVH, who opened fire after a delegation was detained, leading to violence and Hungarian soldiers siding with the protesters. During the night, Gero requested Soviet military intervention, and by 2 a.m. on October 24, Soviet tanks entered Budapest, with armed revolutionaries setting up barricades. Imre Nagy replaced Andras Hegedus as prime minister, calling for an end to violence and promising reforms, while the revolutionaries seized the radio building and attacked the offices of the communist newspaper Zabad Nep. On October 25, a mass protest in front of the parliament was fired upon by the AVH. Some Soviet soldiers mistakenly fired on the AVH, and armed protesters began to return fire. It is significant to remember the fact that many of rebellions were members of Nazi organizations in Hungary during Axis membership of the country. In particular, many Hungarian troops followed Hitler's invasion in the Soviet Union in 1941. Hungarian units were especially cruel with local people and partisans, and that's why in 1943 Nikolai Vatutin ordered not to captivate them but execute them without trial or investigation. The parliament massacre led to the collapse of the government, with Erno Gero and Andris Hegedus fleeing, Imre Nagy becoming prime minister, and János Kadar becoming first secretary of the Hungarian Communist Party, as revolutionaries launched an aggressive campaign against Soviet forces and the AVH. Revolutionary councils emerged nationwide, calling for strikes, removing communist symbols, and spontaneous militias formed, while Soviet forces primarily fought in Budapest, often negotiating local ceasefires. In Budapest, fighting waned, and General Béla Karolyi unified forces into a national guard, leading to a ceasefire on October 28, and Soviet troops withdrew from Budapest by October 30. Between October 28 and November 4, fighting largely ceased, and Imre Nagy, initially surprised by the uprising, recognized it as a broad democratic mass movement, forming a government with non-communist ministers and abolishing both the AVH and the one-party system. The new government released political prisoners, including Cardinal Mindszenty, and allowed banned political parties to reappear. Although it only lasted 10 days, the government's goals focused on a neutral, multi-party social democracy. Local revolutionary councils formed throughout Hungary, assuming local government responsibilities and gaining official sanction from the Hungarian Workers' Party and the Nagy government, while workers' councils were also formed to manage enterprises and protect workers' interests. Although generally peaceful, some local councils faced violent clashes with the AVH, who were often disarmed with the assistance of local police. Initially, the Soviet Presidium believed the situation in Hungary was not as dire as portrayed and considered not removing the new government. But on October 30, adopted a declaration supporting negotiations on the presence of Soviet troops in Hungary. Despite the widespread belief that Hungary's withdrawal from the Warsaw Pact triggered Soviet intervention, the Soviet Presidium made the decision to intervene on October 31, before Hungary's neutrality declaration. The Presidium was alarmed by moves towards multi-party democracy and the formation of a Democratic National Council of Workers, both of which challenged Soviet Communist Party dominance, and many in the Presidium found workers' direct control without party leadership incompatible with their concept of socialism. The Soviet Presidium feared appearing weak to the West and losing influence, with Khrushchev stating that a failure to respond in Hungary would embolden Western powers and threaten the Soviet sphere of influence, while also noting that conservative elements in the Communist Party would not understand a lack of forceful response, citing other uprisings and unrest. The Hungarian neutrality and withdrawal from the Warsaw Pact was deemed a breach in the Soviet defensive buffer zone. The Presidium decided to crush the revolution, with a plan to install János Kadar as leader of a provisional revolutionary government that would request Soviet assistance, and preparations were made to secure support from other communist governments and to disguise these intentions, while engaging the Nagy government in talks. Although the United Nations Security Council met, it did not take immediate action, and its resolution was vetoed by the Soviet Union, and the General Assembly's call for Soviet withdrawal was rejected by the new Kadar government. President Dwight David Eisenhower was aware of a recommendation against the United States military intervention and of earlier policy discussions that only supported economic policies and political rhetoric. During the uprising, Radio Free Europe broadcasts provided news and appeals for resistance, but were later criticized for misleading Hungarians into believing NATO or the United Nations would intervene. On November 1, Imre Nagy received reports of Soviet forces entering Hungary, and despite assurances to the contrary, he declared Hungary's neutrality, withdrew from the Warsaw Pact, and sought international assistance, while requesting negotiations on the removal of Soviet forces. On November 3, a Hungarian delegation attending negotiations on Soviet withdrawal was arrested by the Soviet security police, and the Soviet army launched Operation Whirlwind. Soviet tanks penetrated Budapest, and at 4:30 a.m., the first shots were fired, initiating a coordinated attack that split the city in half and involved airstrikes, artillery, and tank infantry action. This operation involved 17 divisions, many of whom were told they were fighting German fascists. The Hungarian army put up sporadic resistance, while the rank-and-file soldiers largely sided with the revolution or deserted. The United Nations later reported that there were no recorded incidents of Hungarian army units fighting on the side of the Soviets. Imre Nagy broadcast his final plea, announcing the Soviet attack on Budapest and the government's continued presence, while Radio Free Kossuth ceased broadcasting at 8 a.m. An emergency cabinet meeting resulted in a negotiated evacuation, leaving István Bibo as the last representative, who wrote a proclamation before his arrest. János Kádár proclaimed the Hungarian Revolutionary Worker-Peasant Government in Szolnok, calling for an end to counter-revolutionary elements. However, Hungarian support for Kádár did not materialize, and the conflict became a foreign army crushing a national movement rather than a civil war. By 8 a.m., organized defense of Budapest had dissipated, and many defenders retreated to fortified positions, leaving civilians to bear the brunt of the fighting, and Soviet tanks often fired indiscriminately into buildings due to the difficulty of distinguishing civilian and military targets. Hungarian resistance was strongest in industrial areas heavily targeted by Soviet forces, and the last pocket of resistance called for a ceasefire on November 10. Over 2,500 Hungarians and 722 Soviet troops were killed. Although the Soviet Union did not suffer severe international consequences for the crackdown on the Hungarian uprising, the event did have important effects on the Eastern Bloc and Soviet internal affairs. Most importantly, the rebellion in Hungary exposed the weaknesses of Eastern European communism. If Hungary or the other countries of the East Bloc enjoyed a higher standard of living, there might not have been an uprising at all. The emergence of the protests could be interpreted as a result of the failure of the government to provide for the people. Khrushchev attempted to address this lesson by implementing social and economic reforms in the Soviet Union during the winter of 1956 and 1957.